All right, guys. As evident, the Yetzer Hara, as it were, works in mysterious ways. My broadcast was rudely interrupted. I will start again, my friends. For those of you guys who were watching, I apologize. For those of you guys who weren't watching, you get a whole new broadcast. All right. So, guys, today I want to talk about the concept of pasteurization. You guys probably thinking, Tzvi, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Why are you talking about pasteurization? What is this weird? This is supposed to be a political website or Hasbara Israel advocacy website. What are you talking to me about science and pasteurization? What does this have to do with milk? Well, my friends, I don't know if I ever told you, I work in the kosher wine industry. What I do is, myself and my partner, Yoshua Worth, we import, distribute, and do marketing for Israeli wineries. And so one of the things that goes on in the kosher wine industry is there's wines there's basically two different types of wines in terms of their halachic status or status according to Jewish law. One type is called mevushal, and the other one is called not mevushal. For reasons I won't get into, basically mevushal wine is wine that is taken and it is essentially boiled, rendering it halakhically not wine, right? For reasons I'm not going to get into now, right? So it used to be actually in history, in the history of winemaking, that mevushal wine, up until recently, was actually taken and actually boiled. And since it was boiled, it basically, besides rendering it technically not wine, it basically obliterated much of the taste, much of the quality of the wine. So recently, the last I think 15 years, the kosher wine industry developed a technique, especially in Israel, called flash pasteurization. What is flash pasteurization? It is basically when you take the wine, you have a special machine, and it quickly raises up the temperature of the wine, like basically like boiling it, quote unquote, and then quickly slams it back down, slams the temperature back down. And so what you're doing is essentially you're rendering it technically boiled without essentially killing the taste, right? Because it used to be that you basically obliterated the taste. Why am I telling you guys this factoid about kosher wine and what it is that I do for a living? Well, guys, I don't know if you guys noticed, there was a video going around from a person that I consider a mentor. His name is Rabbi Wallerstein. Before I tell you about the video, I'll just tell you that I'll preface and I'll say that Rabbi Wallerstein is a person without whom I would not be where I am today. He was one of the rabbis who I was listening to back in the beginning of my journey. You're talking 2009, 2010, 2011, and I'm a 30-year-old guy, and he had a lot of impact on me. He is a person. He runs a seminary, a yeshiva for girls in Brooklyn called Or Nava, very successful, and he basically is responsible for making a lot of people frum or saving a lot of people from imminent disaster in their lives, as it were. He has a lot of schut in Shamayim, let's put it this way. So recently, there's been a video going around of Rabbi Wallerstein, one of his recent lectures, and somebody cut out of like an hour lecture a 2 or 3 minute piece, and basically where Rabbi Wallerstein gets into the concept of Aliyah, and he basically says, listen, I saw what happened in the riot in Los Angeles, where they basically broke up a shul, this Persian shul, and he went on to liken it to Crystal Nacht, and he said, listen, guys, I think it's time to make Aliyah, it's enough. It's enough. Our time has been elapsed, and it's time to make Aliyah. And he even says, "Well, Rabbi, why are you telling people to make Aliyah?" And he's like, people come up to me and say, "Well, Rabbi, you lead the way. We're right behind you." And his response was, "I'm working on myself. That was his exact response. That was the exact, what we call lashon that he used, the exact verbiage that he used. I'm working on myself. So, in response to Rabbi Wallerstein, I decided to go and write him the following email. I'm going to read it out to you guys, and then afterwards I will tell you, I guess, kind of the responses that I've gotten, and essentially what my take is on this whole thing. Here's the following email that I wrote to Rabbi Wallerstein. Dear Rabbi Wallerstein, dear Rabbi, I just moved back to Israel in January, in particular Jerusalem, from the New York City metro area. I'm currently visiting my family here in Jersey for the month of June. I consider myself on a sort of mission, to knock the final blow, to convince my family to at least start the process for Aliyah. It looks like the current situation is making my job easier. The current situation in the States. However, regarding Aliyah, the message that I normally give over, and the one I suggest for you to give over to your listeners, is the same one as the one in this video. The video that I posted, actually, guys, is something from Rabbi Aharon Lubling. He lives in Ramat Bet Shemesh, and what he was saying was, don't tell people to make Aliyah because of, you're running from the Cossacks, as it were, but tell them to make Aliyah because, you're a frum Jew, and you're talking to frum Jews, to Torah Jews, right? And you're saying, listen, this has been the dream of our ancestors for thousands of years, and this is basically kibbutz galios, the ingathering of the exiles, and we want to participate in this, as hard as it is, as difficult it is, and whatever it is, right? So I posted that link, and then I say this, Rabbi, because with all due respect, telling people to make Aliyah and yet not doing it yourself is the equivalent of lighting a fire and then immediately extinguishing it yourself. Or, to use an analogy from my industry, the kosher wine business, you are mevusheling your message, bringing the temperature up to a boil and then quickly bringing it down, i.e. flash pasteurization. And we all know what happens to the perception of wine. When people hear that it's mevushel, they think it's not as good. My friends, I'm just going to tell you that there are people in the wine industry in Israel who, if you talk to them, and other places, actually in France and other places, Italy, they will tell you that, there's some people that say, well, there's really at this point no discernible difference to the layman between mevushel wine and non-mevushel wine. There are wineries in Israel, they will tell you to your face, I swear on my, relative's grave that I will never, ever, ever, and this winery is one of them, Golan Heights Winery, that they will never, ever, ever make mevushel wine. Why? Because they want to keep the quality pure. They don't want to do anything that could possibly kill the quality. Exactly. My friend says flash pastoring like Al Sharpton. That's a whole different conversation. It's a whole other thing. Yeah, my friend. So I kind of wrote this out on my wall, on Facebook wall, and had some friends respond to me, and they said, well, listen, man, you got to understand. One person said to me, what's better, him not saying anything and, not telling anybody anything, and, that's worse, right? And I responded, listen, I get it, but if you're going to say something, don't, use different language. Don't say I'm working on myself, it's like a midah that I have to, a character trait I have to fix in order to get myself to make Aliyah, or whatever it is. Say, okay, I'll tell you guys something. When I was living here in the States, and I was telling people about that we need to live in Israel, and it's, Torah is more full in Israel, and this, Israel, that, people would always say to me, Tzvi, you're talking a lot, right? You're talking a hell of a lot. Why don't you just go, if it's your place, go make Aliyah? Why are you still here? And I said, well, I would always say, I have, things to wrap up here. I have business stuff, technical things I have to finish. I have my family that I have, my, health issues with my parents, whatever it is. I have to, also I have some family's internal stuff that I have to get over, whatever it is, right? It wasn't really anything to do with myself. I was already ready in my head to leave. Not because the Cossacks are chasing me, just because I want to be in Israel. It's a positive mitzvah. It's not a, so to speak, out of fear. But I never told people I'm working on myself, Yeah, and I said that those are the things that I was saying. I actually responded to this guy. Yes, I wrote, if there's nothing physical stopping him from making Aliyah besides whatever is internal, and he's saying this openly, then it's better not to say anything at all. It's actually counterproductive, right? Again, you're basically you're mevusheling the situation. You're telling people, yeah, yalla. Oh, by the way, I'm working on myself. You know how easy it is if you're a big rabbi, my friends, for people that hang on your every word, to basically follow that idea that this person says we have to go, that like the abstract idea is that we all have to go, but we have to sit here and just work on ourselves to get our, to, I don't know, maybe work on our emunah, to believe that we're going to have parnasa there, or believe that our life is going to be this, great there, or greater than we ever thought, whatever it is, right? We have to work on ourselves, right? So now there's a bunch of people sitting there knowing that they have to make aliyah, but knowing that it's not the right time maybe because they have to work on themselves. Because Rabbi Wallstein's working on himself and they have to work on themselves. Okay. Says my friends, you got to give them credit, it's not so easy, this and that, it's whatever it is. I had another friend, say to me, Aliyah is a process, right? It takes years and years of planning, right? And I had the same response. I said, again, I totally agree. If it takes years of planning, then say, we are working on it. The planning. I'm planning this with my family. We are planning it. We're working out the kinks. We're I don't know. We're building a house in Ramat Bet Shemesh or wherever we're building a house. We're planning. We're planning. We're planning. We're planning. And furthermore, if on top of that, if you're using the term Crystal Nacht, my friends, I don't know if you know anything about Crystal Nacht or anything that happened after that during that time. There wasn't a lot of planning going on. If you're trying to get out of the country, if you think the Crystal Nacht's coming, like, ain't no planning going on. Just pack your stuff and get the heck out of here. You know what I mean? So, my friends, with all that said, I just have to tell you, with all that said, that I personally, looking at everything that's happening in America, I think that America, and our sages even explained this, that America would be the last and most toughest gullus ever. Why would it be the toughest gullus ever? Because it's actually the hardest one to leave. Because there's so many comforts, there's so many creature comforts, there's so many what I call veils, there's so many distortions, there's so many materialist distortions. Our sages explained that gashmiut, physicality, material stuff is probably the biggest blocker of spirituality, and it's also the biggest puller down. Of a person who knows, so to speak, the MS, but it's the biggest puller ever, right? And it's probably the hardest gullus. It may even be harder than any, I don't know, Soviet Union or any, I don't know, I guess leader or tyrant that could ever hold you down, right? Because if you're sitting here, I don't know, in some place in America, in a nice community, and you have everything, you have your kosher food, you have your Torah, you have your this, you have your that, you have your Lexus, you have your everything. Who the heck needs to go to Israel, my friends? That's the deepest gullus of all time. That's really the deepest gullus of all time. So I'll tell you, my friends, I personally don't think that there will be a Holocaust in this country. I'll tell you guys why. Because if you read the Pew report, the 2013 Pew report that was done of Jews, the survey, and they asked Jews, how do you connect? What's the number one thing that you use to connect to your heritage, to your Judaism? And the number one answer, my friends, as they say in Family Feud, survey says, remembering the Holocaust. So my friends, because the Jewish people in America, and also by extension non-Jews, are so what's called Holocaust conscious, nothing like this could happen, right? Because even in the halls of power, there's all these levers that basically anytime you see what happens with anytime there's anything Trump does, right? That's perceived by the left wing as anti-Semitic or the alt-right or whatever it is. These are the people in their minds who were responsible for the first Holocaust, for the real Holocaust, the Nazis. So these people, at the very least, if they're not fans of Israel, if they're not religious, if they don't keep kosher, if they don't if they're pushing two-state solution, at the very least, they would never ever ever let an actual real organized Holocaust happen here in America. But I'll tell you guys what could happen here in America, and what I see happening is that you see all these groups rising up now, all these different groups, not just Black Lives Matter, different socialist groups, Antifa, or what have you. And what could happen is that, we have Jews who are in positions of power, Jews who are Democrats, who, they will do everything to appease this crocodile, as it were. And then the one time, and we already saw it on display with this mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, the one time this guy doesn't give these people what they want, they can turn on him in a second. Or in their case, they told him, go home, go home, go home. And in this particular case, my friends, it won't be go home, to your mansion in Minneapolis, but actually pack your stuff and go home. The funny part is that those same people actually don't want Israel to exist. So I don't know where they'd be telling him to go home. They'll be telling him to go to, I don't know, Mars or the moon. I don't know. Maybe that's why Elon Musk is trying to colonize Mars so the Jews can go there, I don't know. Actually, here's my friend writing. My father used to say that it's counterproductive and even destructive to American-Jewish relations to openly say on certain Aliyah promoting ads that it's time to leave the U.S. and all to come to Israel. Yeah. I mean, listen, it's one of those things. First of all, if you're a Jewish leader and people are hanging on your words, this is something that I told one of the people who responded to what I wrote to Rabbi Wallerstein. People are hanging. You're not just some schlub like me. I'm sitting here like I'm Tzvi Lauren. I'm talking to you guys. I got this blog, but I'm essentially a nobody. Nobody's hanging on my words unless they want to, right? But Rabbi Wallerstein, this so to speak, he's a leader. He's a rabbi. He's a known person. He changed a lot of lives, and he continues to change a lot of lives. And he has to be careful. What Rabbi Wallerstein, you have to be careful with what the lashon that you're using. If you're saying, "I'm working on myself," maybe it's a language issue. Maybe you misspoke. Maybe you meant to say, "I'm working on it." Meaning the technical side of it. Maybe you're, I don't know, working on getting a place, working on a container, working on nefesh from nefesh, working on this, talking to your kids, talking to your wife, parents, this, elderly parent, health issues, whatever it is, right? You're working on it, whatever it is. But to say I'm working on myself, my friends, if you came up to any tzaddik back in the day, Rabbi Nachman, Baal Shem Tov, I don't know, Ben Ish Chai, all these other people, I don't know, anybody, any tzaddik that lived in the diaspora and wanted to come to Eretz Israel or actually did, I guarantee you that one of the things they wouldn't tell you is, well, I need to work, unless they're talking about something lofty like, oh, I need to purify myself first. I have a lot of averas, or I'm not at the level that I want to be to enter into the land and go up to, at that time, Harabayas was you can access it and this and that, and I need to purify myself and this and blah, 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 right? But I guarantee you, none of them said, I need to work on my midot to be able to go to Israel. My friends, they could not go to Israel at that time because at that time, to make the trek to Israel was putting your life in your own hands. No matter how big of a rabbi you are, it was putting your life in your hands. You got on a horse and buggy, you went through the Ottoman Empire, through the bandits and the robbers and the killers, and through swamps, and then once you got to Israel, you got to a swamp, because it was a swamp, mostly, and barren, and a wasteland, and that was it. My friends, today, we're talking about a developed economy. Sure, there's a lot of issues, there's a lot of problems. We just had our third election, and we just had a coronavirus. By the grace of coronavirus, we finally got some kind of weird, whatever, configuration of a government. But with all that said, my friends, I mean, you can today get on a plane. Actually, well, not today, but usually, coronavirus notwithstanding, you could have gotten on a plane and come to Israel. And I'll tell you guys something. I received a call today from somebody who runs one of these Jewish organizations, and she told me, see, a lot of people are contacting me about making Aliyah, and they're having trouble, applying for Aliyah. And she said that I heard one of your videos, and you mentioned in your videos that you can actually come to Israel and make Aliyah once you're in the country. Apply for Aliyah once you're physically in Israel. And I said to her, yeah, normally you'd be able to do that. But if you're not a citizen, you can't just get on a plane today if you're not a citizen of Israel and enter Israel, right? And even if once they start letting people in, you have to enter quarantine. And I reminded her of that movie. I don't know if you guys ever seen the movie Bronx Tale, where there's a scene with I guess there's a main mafia character played by Chaz Palminteri, and so they have a bar in the Bronx, and a bunch of these bikers, who used to bust up bars, come into the bar, and they start kind of making trouble, and what is it called? And then the guys are like, "Come on, like guys, what's up? Like, what are you here for?" And the guys are like, "No, we just want to get a beer. It's all good." Blah blah blah. And then these guys order a beer, and the next thing you know, they start spraying the beer all over the place and on the bartender. And so, the main mafia guy, he was like, okay, I'm gonna ask you guys to leave, and then the bikers like shove off. And so what does the mafia guy do? He goes and he locks the door. He calls his friends with the baseball bats, and he says, "Now yous can't leave." So my friends, to all you guys who want to come to Israel and make Aliyah or enter Israel, people were telling you to go and go and go. People were telling you to leave, and now you just can't leave. The door, for the time being, the doors are locked, right? So, my friends, the idea is basically this. We shouldn't pasteurize the situation. We shouldn't mavushal the situation, If you're going to get people into a boiling point and a frenzy, as it were, first of all, give them a better reason than, the Cossacks are coming. My friends, because you know what? The Cossacks have been coming, and they've been coming since 2012. I was telling my family this, since pretty much the re-election of Obama, because I saw these things coming. I didn't know how this was going to happen. I didn't know that, you had all these Black Lives Matter, all this stuff, and, Antifa. I didn't know alt-right, whatever. I didn't know about these guys. I knew that something sinister was going on. I knew there was other entities, kind of swirling around, but I didn't know the depths of it, right? Yeah, my friend is saying, overcook, rough cook. That's really funny. Yeah, so I knew these things, but I couldn't enumerate the details of how this would happen. And now we see it's going on. It's been happening. It started with the straight up anti-Semitism, the attacks, and now we have this situation where basically, again, Jewish politicians, if they don't give the people what they want, you know what I mean? It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a big problem for us, my friends. But at the same time, my friends, you should, if you want to make Aliyah, or if you're considering Aliyah, the reason shouldn't be because the Cossacks are coming. Because at the end of the day, we're not going to have an actual, what I call a classical Holocaust, but we are going to have just the comfort that we got used to is going to be kind of, it's going to be reduced, right? It's going to be enough, so to speak, if you want to say enough boiling or enough fermentation, as it were, for us to kind of want to pop out of the bottle. If you want to compare it to, let's say, champagne, right? Enough gas, enough bubbles enough for the cork to pop, as it were. Yeah, my friends. So in closing, I just want to tell, if everybody Wallstein ever gets wind of this, I want to say, listen, I respect you a lot. You did a lot. You did a lot for me, more than you know. But I just want to say, when talking to people that are listening to you, be very, very careful with your words. And maybe you misspoke, I don't know. But people hang on your every word. And today, especially today, words are very important, especially from Jewish leaders. Words are very important. Words are very, very, very important. And guys, listen, if we're saying it's crystal knock, which I hope it's not, then there's not a lot of time. But I personally don't think it's crystal knock, but I do think there is something's going on. I'm hearing a lot of buzz from my friends. I'm hearing people that before they weren't so convinced on Aliyah, they didn't consider it. Now maybe they're considering it, or maybe their wife is convinced, and the wife convinced them, and whatever it is, and they're thinking, they're working on themselves. I actually know a guy who is working on himself, but he doesn't have a choice because his wife is dragging him, so he's forced to work on himself. So that's a different story, right? But all in all, listen, guys. It should be a good reason. There are plenty of good reasons for us to come to Eretz Israel, and the things that are happening, the developments that the Nevi'im, the prophets, and the sages spoke about all of these centuries that are here. The vineyards, the building and building and building. The high tech. My friend is writing. The government is not out to get us, but they may not fully protect us. That's exactly the point. They may not fully protect us. And my friends, I'm talking to my friends here, Russian-speaking Jews who came from the Soviet Union, some of my parents' friends, and they're getting guns. They're getting guns. This is something that we were not allowed to have in the Soviet Union, right? And if we were, the story would have been different. Or if people in Iran would be allowed to have guns, the story is different. And people are stocking up on weapons, my friends. My friend is messaging me, and I'm just going to tell him I'm still broadcasting live. Just 1 second. My friend is writing, the elevation of Israel in international recognition is a prophecy. Yeah, the elevation of Israel, international recognition, the high-tech, this, that, and the other. My friends, there's so many reasons to make Aliyah, and there's so many incredible things happening. And even if it is difficult on a, so to speak, creature comfort level, and it's annoying, and the banks are annoying, and the taxes are annoying, and this office is annoying, and this guy is annoying, and this thing doesn't work properly, and guys, I could sit here from Timbuktu and describe to you guys, all the things that are, so to speak, annoying about living in Israel. But I'll tell you guys, all those things are outweighed by the incredible story that you get to participate in. And it sounds idealistic, but my friends, there's really nothing else. It's kind of like if when people came and asked, what are you basing, they asked Ben Gurion, what are you basing the claim to the land of Israel? He said, listen, it's only the Torah. It's got nothing to do with listen, if you want to claim history, we can claim historical, what is it called? Historical Jewish history attachments to, Spain and Poland and Russia, right? But it's more than just historical, my friends. It's more than just ancestral. It's something that is spiritual, and it's incredible. And my friend's writing, The Ascendance of Jerusalem. Yeah, Jerusalem is now the Torah capital of the world, my friends. It's funny, I always say there's people in America who send their kids to yeshiva on what's called gap year after they finish high school, or yeshiva katana, or high school. They send their kids to yeshiva for a year, and they take it for granted that these things have only been available since basically, like, I don't know, the early or mid-70s, maybe. And, they can come back and, go work on Wall Street and be a productive member of American society. My friends, I mean, this thing can, God forbid, this thing can disappear in a second, if not for the fact that we have an army for the first time in 2,000 years. We have a Jewish army protecting us, my friends. All right, my friends, so I'm not going to sit here and convince you to make Aliyah, but I'm just telling you guys, if you are thinking about it, think about it for the reasons of not, I'm running away from, Cossacks and all that kind of stuff. Because I'll tell you, my friends, Israel's surrounded by enemies as it is, right? It's surrounded by Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, all these places. Come to Israel because you want to participate in something incredible, and something really, really incredible, my friends. And and that's about it. And for the people that are talking about, people who are leaders and talking about this topic, I urge you guys, be very, very careful with your words, because people hang on every word. And that is about it, my friends. All right. Everybody be safe. And listen, if you have any questions, feel free to actually message me through this page about actually Aliyah. And that's that. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon.